If you're not using ChatGPT because you think it's not good at marketing, I have bad news for you. You're going to be outcompeted by your peers who are masters of the technology. When used right, ChatGPT can help you become significantly more productive. It can help you brainstorm taglines, content ideas, and strategies, and it can even write copy that sounds just like you. What's more, the content that it writes can actually rank really well in Google. If you're not using AI yet, or you just think you haven't mastered the technology yet, I'm going to give you my go-to framework for creating high-quality content that ranks well in Google every time. First, let's look at the data. Tons of studies have already been done to show that people who use AI well are significantly more productive than their peers. One study found that people using AI wrote up to 59% more documents in an hour than their peers. Another found that people using AI were 66% more productive. But AI actually goes beyond this. People in the tech world report a higher sense of job satisfaction when they're able to use AI tools to automate or simplify tedious and time-consuming tasks, because it frees them up to work on projects that are more compelling. If I'm hiring and I have two strong applicants, but one can use AI well and the other one doesn't use it at all, it's kind of a no-brainer. I'm going to hire the person that can produce up to 2/3 more content. It's a better business decision because I'm getting 1.5 employees for the price of one. And as a freelancer, it means that you can produce more content and potentially take on more clients if you're able to use AI well. You don't need to pay for ChatGPT, but I highly recommend that you do. Trust me when I say that it is the best $20 a month I spend. That's because it enables me to complete significantly more tasks than I would have been able to do otherwise. It's a laughable price if you're a freelancer or a creator, and that's essentially what you're paying for an assistant or a part-time employee. And that's how I refer to ChatGPT. I always say it's my assistant. Not using ChatGPT is kind of like turning down a low-cost assistant with a genius IQ that never talks back. Now, let's get into my prompting structure. It's actually really quite simple. I break it down into 3 parts, and for a high-level and quick summary, it goes like this. First, provide clear and detailed instructions. 2, provide context. And number 3, add references and examples. Let's break these down. The content that ChatGPT spits out will only ever be as good as your instructions. It's going to follow what you say pretty much to a T. So make sure that the information you're feeding it is really clear. The general formula you want to use is this: I am, I will, you will. When I write my instructions, I usually write it in this format. I'll tell it what piece of content I'm writing, like a blog, a case study, or a social media post. I'll tell it a little bit more detail about who the provider is, so if it's for me, a freelancer, or if it's for an organization. And then I'll provide it additional details on what the piece of content should cover and who it's for. Next, I give it a reference and some examples. Usually I'll include these pieces of information, but the more you can provide, the better. I'll give it the word count, the number of variations I want on a piece of content, the audience, goals and objectives, some words to describe the tone, an outline if I have it, and lastly, and this is the really important part, I'll give it an example reference so it can understand my writing style. More than likely, if you give ChatGPT everything except for that last piece of information, it'll do a mediocre job. But it really is that example that you can use as a reference that's going to be a game changer in how ChatGPT writes content for you. You can take a mediocre piece of content and make it exceptional with this last piece. That's because it gives ChatGPT a guideline in terms of how it actually wants the content to sound. Even with detailed instructions, there's a lot of room for nuance. So that reference piece of content shares your voice, style, the way that you want to write, and the way that your audience wants to be written to. Most importantly, it makes it sound human. For this part, I would frame it, I will provide you with X, and then I would fill in the information I've provided. Now, the last piece of the puzzle is your actual request or your instructions. Be very clear in what you want ChatGPT to do. Don't just say, write a blog post. What kind of blog post do you want it to be? Is it educational? Is it a tutorial? Tell it any headlines that you want, any sections, any additional information you can include on the word count, and frame it like this. You will provide a piece of content that follows a list of best practices. Let's imagine I need to write a 500-word case study for a blog. The company I'm writing it for has a data analytics product, and the case study is on a client that was in the financial services firm. You can take a screenshot here because this might be useful. This is how I would phrase my request to ChatGPT. And that's it. That's my fail-safe ChatGPT prompt that I use multiple times a day. Marketers with AI are going to replace marketers without AI. I'm not being dramatic. I truly mean it. So write down this prompt and start practicing with ChatGPT. Over time, you might find that some revisions to this prompt will help you get even better content for your unique audience. So start practicing.